Hi everyone, this is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and tonight this show is brought to you by our friends at Massage Magazine Insurance Plus. Massage Magazine has been exploring touch therapies for over 25 years and has used the industry's knowledge to develop the best value liability insurance in the business. And tonight we have Jim Burns. Welcome tonight, Jim.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah. So what is orthobiotomy? So I'm really curious about it because I just read about it here and there. I've never seen anything done with it before. So enlighten me.
Sure, you bet. Well, it was developed by an English osteopath, so it's very muscle bone related. So being a massage therapist, it fit perfectly into one of the additional skills that I wanted to learn. And what it is basically it's the idea that when the body is holding a certain pattern due to repetitive motion, accident, emotional armoring, for whatever reason, most therapies try to change the pattern. Orthobiotomy says if the body's holding on to something and not able to let go, what would it be like if we gave the body a little bit more of what it's doing? So we slightly follow the pattern, and what happens is the body, the nervous system, and I'll explain further a little bit more of the reflexes, it identifies what it's doing and starts to let go. So it's really a wonderful technique for massage therapists who want to use it with other therapies or just by itself.
And what is your background then?
You bet. Well, actually, my background before I got into massage therapy was sociology and psychology. So I'd always been interested in what makes people tick. And what I found was that I had been working in that field for a number of years, and I started to read more and more about body-mind information. So I decided that I wanted to go to the body part. And instead of going through the traditional medical model, I became a massage therapist. And that was over 32 years ago.
Well, 32 years ago? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm only 39, so
There we go. Well, actually, I started when I was 10 years old. See, that's really what it is.
okay. So you're not going to give your age away.
Doesn't matter. That's fine. That's fine.
So why'd you decide to get into massage and stuff in your early years?
Why I decided to get into it is I remember working with, I used to work with kids on the streets, drug intervention, crisis, family crisis. And I remember talking with him one day, counseling him, and watching that I could quiet his mind down, but his body was holding the tension of being on the street so hard that within a day or so, I saw his body tension take back over his mind. And I realized that, you know what? To fully experience change, we just can't work with the mind. And as I said, as I started to learn more about body-mind connection, I realized there's something in the body that I want to learn to bring that back. And the truth is, you can't, to truly change, I believe, is to expect both of them at a deep level.
So at Edible, and so you practiced massage for a few years before you got into orthobiotomy?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was hungry when I got out of massage school. Just hungry for more information. I took probably every class I could take, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was broke for a long time because there's a lot of classes in California, and I was hungry. I was collecting information. I would take bits and pieces from different classes, but all along something was saying, well, this is good, but it's not who I am. It doesn't fit who I am yet. So I would just collect the information. And when orthobiotomy came along, the principles of it just matched who I was. And I realized that I wanted to study more and more and become very specialized in it.
And is this the main style that you perform now?
Oh boy, that's a good question. You know, um, it depends on what my client has referred to me for. Probably 90% of my clients are referred to me for accidents. So far, of all of the therapies I've studied dozens of different therapies over this past 30 some years. For pain relief, because it works with the structure and the emotions, it's one of the best ones I've used for accident cases. So yeah, probably 80 to 90% of most of what I do is orthobiotomy. And then, I'm a Gemini, so I throw in a little bit of everything anyway. I like both sides of everything. So I'll occasionally throw in other things that I do to see if it fits. But primarily, I'm doing orthobond because it works the best so far. It doesn't have studies.
And with orthobiotomy, why isn't it not more well known? I mean, the only time I really see anything is when there's a listing of different modalities of massage.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. When the man who developed it, the English osteopath, his name is Dr. Arthur Lincoln Paul, and I was one of the earlier trainers in it. And at one point, we said to Arthur, we want to get the word out about this. And he said, I'm coming from, because he came from an osteopathic background, he says, I don't want someone to take one class and say that they're an orthodontist, because you want somebody to be a really good practitioner before they use that term. So he trademarked the word. So that's the good news, is that when you see someone who is an orthodontist practitioner, they're well trained in it. They have between 500 and 1,000 hours in a week of training in it. The flip side is it's slower to catch on, and because it's also very, very gentle work, a lot of times people are believing that they have to be a little more firm with their body in order to make change. And what I found is that gentleness is incredibly powerful for people. So, it isn't as dramatic in terms of pushing and pulling the body, and we've been very careful on selecting who can be practitioners. So that's probably why it's been so slow. I've been, as I said to you offline before, is that I've presented a number of AMTA conventions. There's probably practitioners in most of the states now, but it still hasn't. I've written a book on it. There's other teachers who have written some articles, but it hasn't jumped up as popular as deep tissue or Feldenkrais or Reiki, things like this yet. But I'm working on that.
Okay.
So this is going to help. This talk, I'm sure that it's going to really expand it.
Yep. So, in the past, you've taught a lot of classes all over the world and stuff too, then?
Yeah, I was one of the first teachers to really start traveling around the country. I think it's the gypsy blood in me that just likes to set up tribes all over the country. So from California, I used to go to the Midwest a whole lot and went to New England, and then we trained other trainers who then moved to different areas, and they started teaching. So, yeah, I trained all over the States, Canada, Jamaica, Europe. And then there are teachers, throughout most of the Western European countries. Each has their own orthobonomy alliance, their own organization. So, and then there's a whole bunch of teachers up in Canada. They have their own organization. So, it's under the radar, but it's getting out there.
And is this a style that a lot of people incorporate into their other massage treatments too, then, or is it more of a standalone? Would you say?
It really depends on how people work best. My students tend to be two kinds. One is that they want to learn an additional tool to be able to fit into what they're doing already. And, what I teach both in classes and also in the book that I wrote is you can take any one section and you come up in the massage, and when you come up to an area that's out of balance, that's in a lot of pain, you can do the orthobonomy move, bring it back to balance, and then continue with the massage. And that's how I originally started with it. What I started to find was that as I became better at it and worked on more people, I started to get referred clients who were specifically in pain, not interested in just a massage. So then I started practicing that more and more, and as I said, that's primarily what I do at this stage.
And what is orthobiotomy? What style is it the closest related to, would you say?
Oh boy. There's in osteopathy, there's a genre called positional release work. One name that some PTs know is strain counter strain.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's a derivative of positional release work. There's strain counter strain, and then there's orthobiotomy. So that's about the closest to it. It's done fully clothed. It's done by, if I could explain how it's done, it might make more sense to it, is that, again, when the body's holding a certain pattern of tension, if the muscles, if I've been at the computer all day and these upper shoulder muscles are really tight, what we do in orthobiotomy is says, okay, if this is what the body's doing, what would it be like to complete the action of what it's doing to see if it gets it and releases it? So what happens is we move through positioning in a way that shortens that muscle, follows it in the direction it's going. There's a couple of fine-tuning techniques that we get to stimulate the muscle's responses, and all of a sudden it's like it's got to complete that contraction, and then it just starts to let go. And it's really that easy to do. So a lot of my students are people who've been in the massage field for a long time who they're starting to hurt. They either didn't learn proper body mechanics or they just have hurt themselves. And this work is so gentle, and that's part of what I love about it. It's completely painless. Painless for the client, which is really nice, and painless for the practitioner. So I end up having people who need to do a different type of body therapy, not hurt themselves.
So this is a safer modality than you would say for some?
When any modality is safe, depending on how the practitioner is doing it and if they're paying attention to the body, so Dr. Pauls initially, when he came to the United States, he actually wanted to teach it all to lay people because he realized that when we're following the body the way it's going, we're not stretching the body, we're not trying to force it to be anything different than what it's doing. You can't hurt somebody with orthobiotomy. So in answer to your question is that I've never had any practitioner or student of mine hurt someone following the principles of orthobiotomy. And I eventually would love to teach this to lay people. But right now, the ones who are taking my classes mostly are professionals, massage therapists, PTs, nurses, chiropractors, doctors. Yeah, I get the whole variety.
Yeah. And is there some energy involved in it too, then, would you say?
Good question. There's a foundation level of orthobiotomy, and then there's an advanced level of orthobiotomy. The basic level is the structural. Is what is the body doing, exaggerating that, giving it a chance to, if you're familiar with homeopathy,
yeah,
it's nicknamed the homeopathy of body work because we give the body a little bit more of what it's doing, the body identifies it, and then self-corrects. Well, what happens is Dr. Pauls, he was doing this work for a couple of years, and he started to be aware that we're not just physical bodies, we're emotional, we're energetic. And so to be aware of who you're working with at many levels, physical, energetic-wise, emotional-wise, and mirroring back to them, being a silent witness to them, allows them to hear, to feel themselves more than self-correct. So there is an energetic aspect. It's taught at a more advanced level of the training rather than the beginning level.
And do ever people get involved in like unwinding? Have you studied like craniosacral therapy and stuff, or?
Extremely, yes. That advanced level is where we teach a class that has to do with unwinding. It's called subtler modalities in orthobiotomy, and yes, very much so. Because the fact is, the body works in layers. We have an injury, and we compensate over it. And then if that doesn't get worked out, we compensate over that compensation. So as you start, it's like taking a twisted rubber band, and when you unlock that first twist, it just starts to unwind itself. So you unlock that first layer, and the next layer is now the top layer. And then you release that, and then that deeper layer that you didn't even know was there before because it was compensated over is now the top layer. So sometimes the body can just continually unwind itself. It can be a very deep and powerful release.
So, can it bring up emotions too and stuff, would you say?
It can. Its main... I consider orthobiotomy body therapy rather than psychotherapy. And again, having a background in psychology, I'm very careful on not to step over that line. People come to me for body therapy. if emotions come up, I'm very present with them. I can be there in an orthobonomy way, very present, silent witness, just honoring who they are rather than telling them, oh, you should be. No, we don't do that in orthobonomy. We honor whoever they are. It gives them a chance to experience themselves deeper and self-correct. So there are times where emotions do come up, but we're not purposely trying to dig them up in orthobonomy.
Okay, so you're not trying to. Okay.
That is
Yeah. And how long are your sessions? Do you prefer to have like an hour long, or half an hour, or hour and a half, or?
Yeah, usually it's about the same time as a regular massage session. So it can go anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a quarter for me. If I'm having a really good time, I like to go longer, but that's my own. But no, but it's traditionally about the same time as a massage therapy.
And what do some of the skeptics say about it?
Ooh, good. I like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm giving a lecture in front of people and they're having this question from over here and this question. I like them. That's great. Boy, nobody's asked me that in years. First thing that comes up is when I'm giving especially an introductory talk, people will say the body won't change unless you force it to change. Gentle work doesn't work. And the truth is, there is no one technique that works for everyone. Okay? Some people in my life, there are times where I've needed some very firm, deep work to open up. Sometimes you do that in another place in my body, and it just goes right back in because it wasn't ready to open up. So I tell them that try whatever seems to work for a client, but also have available very gentle ones. Because my experience, again, I also have a lot of, besides accident cases, I have a lot of people who've gone through a lot of trauma. Family history trauma, relationship trauma, and again, looking at it from the body therapy standpoint, trying to force someone to change, people's guards come up very, very strongly. So this gentleness of orthobonomy, of just giving you who you are, letting you feel very, very safe, gives you a chance to then feel safe enough to come back out. So I tell those people that if they say that you have to force the body to make changes, is try that and also have available gentle work, and then see what works for that client. Don't believe any one way to work. I tell my students, that take my classes with me, don't believe me, okay? I don't want you to believe. Well, I don't want them to believe just because I'm the teacher. I want them to experience it themselves, and that's why I go. Okay, practice what I'm showing in the demo. Now, students, go practice with each other and experience that, not just what I said is true, because I don't know what's true for everyone. Now, I've been doing this for 30 years now, and what I see is the power of gentleness, the power of holding the body in a way, a very, very specific way that allows it to feel safe and self-correct is incredibly powerful. So that's the first thing that skeptics say. The second thing they say is that what Dr. Pulse talked about is that when you affect within the muscular skeletal system, there are reflexes called the spindle and the Golgi tendon reflexes, and if you position them properly, they can actually let go of tension within 10 to 30 seconds. So a lot of times, a skeptic in an introductory class will say, no, somebody can't release within 10 to 30 seconds. They need a lot longer. And I'll say, okay, I hear you. Would you like to come up and let me work on you? Or I'll work on somebody else while they're watching. And they'll see that somebody can have a tight tension pattern, following their pattern many, many, many times. All of a sudden, that starts to open up within those, because it's affecting the spindles and the Golgi. So, again, I honor every inquisitive question. And it's not that they're wrong and I'm right. It's more of, well, here's another way to look at things. What else does skeptics say? Those are the two biggest ones. Yeah, is the time and that gentleness can't work. and we haven't yet experienced the powerfulness of gentleness.
Okay. And has there been any research done with it?
That's the other reason that we're not quite as out there as possible. There is research being done right now, but nothing has been. I think there's one research paper that's out there, but there isn't a lot. So there's articles, but not as much research as we want to have in order to get out, especially into the medical community. So that's going to be something that we're looking forward to. So Brian, if you want to head up a study for us, that'd be great. Just got to keep you awake, Brian. Make sure that keep you on your toes.
And what kind of success stories have you had over the years?
Oh wow!
Only limited to 5, okay?
Yeah. Oh boy, let's see. I can remember one man who came in and he was a golfer. He loved golf, but he was hurting so much that he couldn't golf anymore. You could see he was an older gentleman, and you could see in his face this pain of not able to do something that he just loves to do. And he's been to the doctors, and they've done all that they could, and so I just worked with following the patterns of his body. What is his body? How is it holding? And just following it. And what happened was that he's had this for 20 years. He couldn't be fully swinging the way he wanted. He was in pain with a certain part of his body. And I think it was within 2 sessions, all of a sudden you could feel this opening up in his face and his body. And he got up and he goes, "This is the first time in 20 years I'm not hurting." And then I told him that don't go out and play golf today. Give it a couple days to integrate and things like this. Because I'm sure as a massage therapist, sometimes somebody will feel better right away, and then they'll feel so good they'll go out and injure themselves because they weren't paying attention. So I got a call back a week later, and he says I'm gently integrating, but that he says you've given me my passion back. It's just like, oh, that's really wonderful. I remember a woman that I worked with up in Canada. History of both family, all different kinds of abuse in her family, and she'd been to all sorts of therapies, and again, without verbalizing, without talking them through, I just take their body in a way to make them feel safe. I move them in a way their body's already going. I move them in a way that they can just go into that deep place that they want to feel safe in. And she started, and again, her eyes lit up because she started to unwind. And she started to literally on a table just be like a little wormy bear, just turning and twisting. And within a couple of sessions, she said that she felt the weight of this trauma 90% off of it. So it was amazing. It was amazing. So, and a lot of my sessions are people who've been to a lot of people in town, haven't been able to get the relief they want, and I don't get, there's no guarantee. Literally, I have somebody call me up and say, hey, my name's John, and you helped my friend Mark with one session. His neck was hurting. You can help my neck in one session. And and I say to him, I don't know. And I've been doing this for 30 years, but I connect. Every person is so unique. That when I work with them, this is like the working with someone for the first time for me. It's like, let's explore, who are you? How can I give you more of who you are? How can I show you the way that your body's doing rather than trying to force it to be different? And again, no wrong with systems that do that, but that's not the work I do anymore. So I've been very honored that people feel safe and open up. And again, do I help every single person that comes in? No, but I tell people that if within 3 sessions you don't feel like we're headed in the right direction, you're not starting to feel changes, go work with someone else. I don't want to take your money or take my time. This may not be the right system for you. But usually within 3 sessions, most of my clients will start to feel the beginning of unwinding or quite powerful changes already.
And then with orthobiotomy, to just one second, I'm just gonna check on something. Okay. How long? What kind of do you have to go through many different classes in order to get certified in it, or?
Good question.
Yeah.
I'll answer that in a slightly different way and then give you a direct answer. I'm a Gemini. So my goal when I'm teaching classes is that by Sunday night of a 2-day class on Saturday and Sunday, if you can walk out and use that right away. So I have people Monday morning, they're working with their clients. I have PTs that use it right away. I have massage therapists that will use it right away. For them to use the term orthobiotomy, which is a trademark word, they do have to get certified. They have to go through a certain proficiency level of training. Because then, when someone sees that the orthobiotomy is one of many things that they do, but they see the trademark with orthobiotomy, they know that they've reached a certain proficiency level. Then, if they want to become a real specialist in it, then they become a registered practitioner, and that's more in-depth training. So yes, there is a certification program.
And then how many certified practitioners would you say are out there?
Ooh, boy, I should have checked that out. Well, I'll announce it. The orthobiotomy, the Society of Orthobiotomy International, which is like the guild of our organization, has a website, and you could go on it. It's ortho-biotomy.org, and you'll have it on your website, Ryan, at the end.
Yep.
I'm going to guess. Oh boy, I haven't looked to see what the numbers are, but there are student members who have had at least one class. There's probably when I heard last, there's probably between 500 and 600 of them. Probably those who have reached the proficiency level of using it on their card, probably between 100 and 200 people, but I don't know that number for sure. And I could contact the office, somebody could tell me that. So if you're interested, you could contact the society office. And as I said, I don't even know the practitioners or the people who are certified in other countries because I'm not traveling there anymore. So there could be hundreds in Europe. There could be even more up in Canada. So there's some to be found.
Would you like to see a lot more people certified in it, though?
That'd be fun. Sometimes at the end of class, I'll get very reflective because I will have watched people just open up and let go of their tension from practicing the work and learning it. And I'll say to them that one of the reasons why I've stayed with orthobiotomy is the belief that gentleness is powerful. That it's not always no pain, no gain. That I know I've seen this in a relationship, is that when I'm struggling with my wife, sometimes we don't hear each other as much as when one pauses and just really listens, and then that person gets heard. They are so much more open. So part of what I would love is I'd love to have people learn this. I would love to be able to teach it to lay people to show them that gentleness is incredibly powerful to help other people soften up and open up. So yeah, I would love to see people do this.
Do you guys ever have any kind of conference every year at all, or?
Yeah, there is. It's about every year and a half. It's an international conference, so there are people that come from all over the world, Australia, Canada. Occasionally we have some people from Europe come in, a lot from the States. And if you just contact either me at my website or my email or the society, they'll be able to tell you when the next one is. I think it's in Denver in next year, but I'm not sure what the date is yet.
Okay. And how many people attend those usually?
Oh boy, depending on where it's located and how the economy is doing, probably between 60 and 80 is a pretty typical average. So they're not huge, huge, huge. Um, but they're because of the gentleness and how I mean, there's lots of hands-on work in these conferences. Actually, almost all of the seminars are hands-on, not just talking. Um, but it's amazing to watch. You'll be in a crowd of 60 people that you may or may not know, and they'll feel like strangers. And at the end of the conference, because of all the touching and all the talking that happens, these people feel very close with each other. So it's, you become you have 60 new friends in a lot of ways.
Okay. And you still keep in contact with everybody then?
We try to.
Yeah.
People exchange. Usually they'll exchange cards, or they may ask for the list of people who were there. Sometimes that's available. So yeah, people do try to because it's really nice. I have a great story of. I taught a student here in California, and she was driving through the country, and her car broke down in Chicago. And she didn't know anybody in Chicago. She was headed out towards Boston. And when you join the society, you get a directory of all the students all the people who have joined. And so she just happened to have gotten that month, and she flipped through it, and she saw somebody in Chicago. And one of the things that you can put into your listing is other skills that you have that you'd like to share. And so one of them was a car mechanic. So she called him and said, "You don't know me, but I'm an orthobonomy student, and I'm broken down." And it ended up being that he helped her with a car, she gave him a session, and I think they're still really good friends. So it's a whole nother dating system. No, no,
No.
no. It's a wonderful way to keep connections. Because the truth is, Dr. Paul said that he knew that once he started teaching more and more, at first he knew everybody, because they were all studying with him. But as teachers started to teach around the world, he knew that there'd be people that he would not know their names anymore. And he was sad about that, but he said there will always, no matter what orthobonomy person I meet and they put their hands on me, I'll be able to feel an orthobonomy touch. I'll be able to feel that whole idea of honoring and following and allowing someone to open up. So it's a big community.
And has orthobionomy ever made it to like NBC or CBS or anything else? Or have you heard?
Um,
Because I remember a couple of years ago, Ralphing made it kind of big on
sure.
Oprah show and
Okay.
stuff. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You know what? I've heard that there was a teacher in the Milwaukee or Chicago area that got interviewed on a local station. So, but I don't have that information of who it is. You can also YouTube orthobonomy and see if that shows up there. There's a lot of there's a dozen or so YouTubes on orthobonomy. My students have been kind of like, you got to get on YouTube, and so shortly I'm going to have some interviews on YouTube.
You need you need to get on YouTube.
Yeah. So did you say, Brian, that this is going to end up on YouTube?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Are you going to show a picture of you too?
No, just you.
You're a live riot.
Yeah. And then for do you ever use anything with trigger point therapy with orthobonomy or Asian medicine like acupressure points or?
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. As I said, my goal is no matter what modality you come in with, that you have an additional tool to use. So one of my senior students in San Francisco has finished up her acupuncture training and is finishing up her board. And what she plans to do is use orthobonomy with acupuncture. So when needling someone, she will also be using positional release work to drop the release deeper. And she has spoken in terms of from a Oriental medicine approach. And again, I don't know that language very well. She's talked about that it has opened up the chi, it has helped the meridians to open up. And again, I'm speaking language that I'm not as familiar with. I'm just trying to repeat what she said to me. So she plans to be using it in all sorts of ways, combining the two. I've trained rolfers, I've trained physical therapists, I've trained neuromuscular therapy people, I've trained reflexology people. Really fun to because I used to teach reflexology in massage school, and it's really fun to do painless reflexology. It's really fun. So I've trained people. I've trained psychotherapists who instead of touching them will tell the patient to get in certain positions that'll help them to release some of their tension patterns. So I've trained. It's amazing. I've trained doctors and just all sorts of people in 30 years, and been amazed how people integrate.
And would you say massage therapists are your biggest population for teachers then, or people
Yes,
taking the classes, or?
yes. Right now, it seems that I mean, being a massage therapist, it's like this profession can include so many different therapies that massage therapists are just hungry for information. They love to be able to offer to their clients a new approach that may be able to take their clients to a whole nother level. So I love teaching the massage therapists as well as other therapists too. But massage therapists, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So I like that.
And have you heard about in other states if they're allowed to practice this without being a massage therapist at all, or is it usually always underneath massage therapy licensing?
It really depends. I mean, as you know, the different states are changing their requirements for being a massage therapist. In some states, orthodonty fits right under massage therapy. For some other states, it's classified re-education, so that it's separate from itself. And I believe there's one of the states up in the Northwest is Feldenkrais and Rolfing and orthobiotomy and I think something else has its own classification. And again, check that out. So it truly depends on what state and sometimes even the county and the city that you're in. So you'd have to check with the local regulations.
And right now, the city where I live in, because Minnesota is not regulated, it's just city by city, and we're trying to get regulations right now. But the thing is, most massage therapists want those kind of modalities separate, so they don't want an underneath massage kind of thing, so they can have their own things if they want. So,
well, there's advantages and disadvantages for both. To have it separate makes it a clearer sense of what is massage and what isn't. But I wouldn't want the rules to push out those other therapies and just have it be massage is the only thing that people can do. So I would want somehow for both worlds to be available.
and what about for billing through like insurances? Is it possible to bill under orthobiotomy, or do you have to bill under something else?
Um, Depending on the insurance company, if there are some insurance companies that I don't directly bill, I send a bill with a description of what I've done to my client, and then they send it in. And so I've been told that there are some insurance companies that will finance, will repay orthobiotomy work. Sometimes sometimes you have to be a massage therapist as well as doing the orthobiotomy. So it really depends on. I have heard of some, but it will depend on the insurance company.
And what does your typical class entail? Is it mostly all hands on, or how do you start out, or with a lot of humor, right?
Well, to lighten up is very important for all of us, including the teachers. So, it starts with first thing I do is an opening circle to find out what are your needs as students. What are you wanting to learn? Is there a specific technique that you've heard of? Do you have a certain client that you would like to be able to do something different with? I want to find out what's going on with them as well as what's going on with their body, because most of us will learn something much faster if it's hurting on our own self. We're motivated for that. And then I begin with the history and the principles. I really want them to be grounded in the principles of orthobiotomy, because the truth is that orthobonomy is a principle-based approach to the body. So the truth is that no matter what class you take in orthobonomy, and there's a whole variety of classes, the principles are the same. So once you got the principles, you can understand the other classes much easier. So I really want them to walk away with an understanding of the principles. And then we get into whatever the class is. If it's a spine and pelvis class, we'll start taking each section of the spine and the pelvis, and I'll demo, and then they practice, and they switch, and they practice. So probably, 75 to 80% at least is hands-on practice work. You know, the way I learn best is when I touch and be touched. You know, if I'm sitting in a class in which I'm just kind of listening, you know, I'm starting to fade out because my brain's overloaded, I'm not going to remember it. But if you touch me, like, oh, yeah, and if I can touch you, it sinks in more. And again, it depends on how each person learns. I mean, I train other teachers to be aware of all the different learning styles that people have, to be able to teach them in a way that matches who they are, rather than just the way that works only for you.
And then on the ortho-bionomy.org site, there's a thing that says, "Why the sand dollar?"
Oh, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, very much so. Oh, so let me actually finish one brief more about the class. Then at the end of a demo, I ask for questions. I really want people. I'm the kind that when I'm in a class, I'm the one who's always raising his hands, because it takes me a little bit. I'm a little bit slower to learn something, but once I get in my body, I really get it. So we answer question and answers, and then after they practice, questions and answers. And so at the very end of the training, we also want to make sure there's any questions that all the questions have been answered. So the sand dollar is interesting. So the story that I remember from Dr. Pauls is that he had developed the orthobionomy and he wanted to find a logo. And he was walking on a beach, I believe in England, trying to think about the idea that the principle, one of the principles of orthobionomy is to believe that our body has an incredible wisdom in it. And it's like we're wired at a DNA level to do everything we can to protect ourselves and survive. So when the body gets cut, we don't have to say, well, white core muscle, please go down there and take care of that. You know, the body knows what to do. When we're injured, the body automatically curls around to protect itself. When we're around a scary situation, emotionally, we go into a guarded place. Well, and then what we do in orthobionomy is use whatever the body's doing. So Dr. Pauls wanted to find a logo that talks about that we are continually open. We are continually learning and surviving and evolving. And as he was contemplating that, he looks down and he saw a sand dollar. And the sand dollar has 5 appendages. And at the end of each appendage is an opening. It's not a closed system. And he believed that, you know, we are continually taking in information and giving it out through all of us. That the logo shouldn't represent too closed of a system. So he looked down and saw the sand dollar and he said, okay, that's what I want to do for the sand dollar, for the logo.
And I myself, back in the day, I used to collect shells, and the sand dollar is so delicate too.
Yep.
Does that have anything to do with it too, or because your work is more gentle, or?
Yeah, you know, Brian, you're asking questions that nobody's asking me. God, come to my class.
Yeah.
You know, it gets me thinking, wow, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah.
I forgot the question. I was so excited by you asking that question. So, the fragileness of the sand dollar. Even as fragile as it is, it gets tossed in the waves. It's strong within itself, but if you push improperly on it, it can crack. So I don't think Dr. Pauls thought about the fragileness, though if we were to ask him if he was still alive, he'd probably say, oh, yes, I absolutely, oh, absolutely. So, he could have thought about that, but I don't remember him speaking about it.
And what did people think of Dr. Pauls back in the day then?
Oh, you're stretching okay.
You can keep it PC.
To be the founder of any new work, you have to have a passion for it. And because of that passion, some founders of works that can be quite eccentric. That they, my personal, I considered Arthur to be an eccentric genius, because his passion was so powerful that he sometimes didn't always know the social skills to interact, but he believed in what he was doing. And, what I've, again, this is hearsay, what I've heard of other the founders, Ida Rolf, Feldenkrais, Traeger, they were characters, to say the least, okay? And yet they were geniuses. And so my experience with Arthur is that he was incredibly brilliant. I mean, the things that I experienced with him in his class and was amazing. And he was a bit of a character, to be around, which, for me, it was very entertaining too. So, he interesting enough, when he started teaching in a 2-day class, he would throw in everything that he learned in osteopathy school. I mean, we were overwhelmed in the first classes because he hadn't broken it down in a way to teach it properly. He was an osteopath, and he was just sharing information, and we would get golden nuggets of information, but it's like, whoa. And it wasn't until some of the teachers and himself started to restructure how to teach that it became more systematic and easier to take. So at the beginning stages, we were just all blown away by the amount of information, by his passion, and yet also blown away by how powerful it was with us.
Okay. And then there's, I see in your class listings and stuff like phase 5, 6, and things like that. What do those mean then?
You bet. You bet. The phases are ways that Arthur described the way that the body is trying to always self-correct. Okay? So phase 1 is unconsciously moving away from pain. Okay? When we touch the needle and the thread, we jump back. When we touch a fire, we don't have to think about it. It's within our DNA. Phase 2 is consciously moving away. So as I get near a fireplace, that feels nice and warm, but if the room's getting crowded, if I starting to get pushed closer, you know what? This is now starting to get uncomfortable. I need to move away constantly. Phase 3 is moving away from pain through positioning. So if I was sitting here being interviewed by you and I was kind of, sitting in a chair that was kind of in a weird way and it was starting to hurt me, I would actually try to sit a little bit more comfortable, in a more comfortable position, to be able to talk with you. So that's phase 3. Phase 4 is positioning the body into comfort and adding self-correcting reflexes that happen, that Arthur talked about, the spindles and the Golgi, the things like that. Turn off my phone. Turned off my cell phone, but I forgot to turn off my regular phone. So phase 4 is using specific techniques to stimulate the self-correcting reflexes in the positioning. Well, phase 5 was actually, Arthur found that he would be working with his clients, following different patterns in the body, and one day he touched a spot, and he really made sure that he was connected into that spot, and as he began to move the head in the position that he knew would soften that muscle, the body started to move itself. And it was like he barely was touching them. And he went, what just happened? And it released the point. And so he realized, wait a minute, maybe if I effort less, and maybe there's a wisdom in the body that the moment you touch something, it already knows at some level the position it needs to go in to feel safe to let go. So that's phase 5. Phase 6 is one day Arthur was working with a client, and he was touching a point that was sensitive, and as he began to get closer to the client started to move in a position that started to release the point. Now, Arthur didn't believe in energy or electromagnetic fields or anything like that. And so he was just like, what happened? And as he started to study it more, he started to recognize that we are physical and we're also energetic. And if you're able to tune into the patterns around us, the physical body, the energy in us, and give that back to the person, not in a forceful way, but just showing them who they are, they get to self-correct. So that's phase 6. So it's both physical, and this goes earlier to your question about is there energy work to it? It's mostly structural work, and the awareness of energy helps to make it go deeper when that's appropriate.
Okay. And then what are some of the other classes I see there too?
Yeah, again, Dr. Paul's being an osteopath, he showed us classes that have to do with using isometrics. Using the principle of reciprocal inhibition, using isometrics, following the principles of orthogonality. Every single class follows the principle. That can be a much more young approach to orthobiotomy, and people may like that. There's a class called postural re-education and post technique, which deals with scoliosis, kyphosis, lower doses, again following the principles of orthobiotomy, helping the body to self-correct. There's a class that deals with neurolymphatic points, because he studied that a lot. That's what's called Chapman's reflexes in osteopathy school. There's a class called exploration and movement, where we're using movement to identify what's going on in the body, and using movement, again following the principles of orthobiotomy, to show what their body's doing and to get it to release. Then there's other classes that specifically more have to do with being a practitioner. Elements of a successful practice, marketing classes. You have to have a certain amount of anatomy and physiology to be a registered practitioner, things like that. So there's a variety of different classes that people can take. As you get to the advanced work, there are cranial classes, orthobiotomy cranial classes. There's orthobiotomy visceral classes. There are people that use orthobiotomy on animals. There are people that use it with sports people. Women's health issues. I mean, there's a whole variety of people. That's why I love that I train people and they go out and they create ways to do it in which ways I didn't even think of before. And that's what I love about how more hands get things done even more. People helping each other expand things out more. So does that answer the question about classes?
Yep. And then I see that you wrote a book.
Yeah. Story is really cute about that real briefly is that for years we were asking Arthur to write the book, because students were asking for a book, other teachers were asking for a book, because at that time, books were the way that can get the word out there. And Arthur's background is he was a judo teacher, and he believed in the tradition of oral tradition. He said, I don't want to write a book. I don't believe in that tradition. So one day, Kathy Kane, who was another advanced instructor, and myself was an advanced instructor, we were talking, and we kept on saying, gosh, students are asking, people are asking, and then we finally turned to each other and said, maybe it's needed, maybe we need to do that. So we sat down and created the orthobiotomy book. It's called Orthobiotomy, A Practical Manual, and it's put out by North Atlantic Books.
And I even see that you can do autographed copies too.
Okay, but you have to come bring the book out here to California, Ryan.
In April, okay?
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Bring your family too.
Yeah.
Yeah, at conventions often people come up and ask me to sign it. I get a little shy about that. It's interesting, I don't get shy in front of a teaching, but when somebody asks me for an autograph, it's just kind of like, okay, so that's fine. Yeah, the book is, I think it has sold like 15,000, 20,000 copies, I think, and people sometimes, I got an email one time from somebody says, I live in the middle of Idaho, there's no teachers that come out here, I saw your book on a bookshelf, I bought it, and I'm already using it, and thank you very much. Like, whoa, good for them. Because I'm the kind that I don't learn quite as good from books, I need hands-on work, but I am so happy that people can just take the book and use it. It's a fun book.
And what are your goals for the future? Or do you ever want to make videos, more books?
That's funny you should bring that up, because I've been having students say to me that they encourage me to get on the internet and do web trainings, teleseminars, get videos out. And, you know, I'm a little bit of a dinosaur getting into the internet. And, you know, my 16-year-old daughter, has to teach me how to use my new cell phone most of the time and things like this. So it's interesting, Ryan, you bring that up. This is the year that I've actually told myself, okay, I'm going to get some things out there on the internet and probably get some DVDs out and some audio and some CDs also. So this is the year. Isn't it the year of the dragon or something? That's what I heard. That's the year of the dragon.
The only year I pay attention to is the rat, because that's what I am. So.
Is that what you are?
Yep.
I think I'm a rat too. I don't know how that goes, but I think somebody once told me I'm a rat, but maybe that was an old girlfriend. I'm not sure.
And I'm a Scorpio too, so watch out.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like people. I love hanging with people, but especially people who've got passion. And you know, just talking with you before we started today, and this interview is just like, you'd be fun to hang out with.
Yep. Yeah, everybody says I'm like loud and obnoxious, and
you got fired.
Yep. So, do you have any other plans for more teaching and stuff in the future too?
I've been doing more and more conventions. I've been enjoying that. As I mentioned earlier, is that for the first about 18 to 20 years of my teaching, I was traveling all over the country teaching. But you know, when I decided to have a child, I wanted to be around. Because my daughter Serena is a real sweetheart, and I'm really enjoying being a father to her. So I'm not wanting to travel as much, but you know, I do like to do conventions because then I get to meet a whole lot of people. So besides the webinars, besides the trainings, I'll continue my trainings in California, and then occasionally do trainings in other states, but certainly not 3 out of 4 weekends I used to be doing it. So that's about it for this year.
Oh, that's it then?
This year. Now when we talk next year, Ryan, okay, you know, I may have something different up my sleeve then, so we'll see.
Yeah, please keep me informed though and stuff, okay?
I really would, Ryan.
Yeah. And then what's the best way for people to get a hold of you then?
Okay, you mentioned that on your website you'll have the information, but you can contact me at my email, which is OB, as in orthobionomy or Oscar Butter, depending what you want. You know, OB Jim Burns, BERNS, @gmail.com. And my website is www.objimburns.com. And you can also make contact with the society website. It's ortho-bionomy.org, and they have information also.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure tonight learning about this, and I love learning new styles about what makes them tick then. So.
Yeah, and you know what? I also just want you to know that, as I said to you offline, as I said, that what you're doing, Ryan, is really important, because massage therapists also often can feel kind of alone. You know, we're in our own private room and we're doing our own thing, and to feel community, to feel connected. That's partly why I like to do conventions. But this kind of thing, you're bringing people together. And so the service you're doing is really nice. So thank you, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Jim. And thank you everybody for tuning in. And tomorrow I'll have the replay up, so if anybody missed or didn't watch the whole thing, I'll have it up then, okay? Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.